The Military Service Pensions Project is about the archival preservation and the release of about 250,000 files online. So these are the files of the veterans who participated in the Rising in 1916 to the War of Independence and then till the end of the Civil War in 1923. So these were the people who were members of military or quasi-military organizations like the IRA, Cumann na mBan, Fianna Éireann, also the National Army and the Irish Citizen Army. And these people applied under various legislation to be awarded pensions, so various pensions for service, for disability, wounds or diseases contracted during service, or medals as well.
Dan Breen was a leading figure in the IRA in Tipperary. He was very active throughout the War of Independence, took the anti-treaty side in Civil War, and then became a Fianna Fáil TD for many years. He applies for a pension, he is successful, he received 9 years, which is quite a good pension, and he has the highest rank possible. So he talks about what happened immediately after the events in Solohead Beg. He's brought to Dublin and he has to go in front of Richard Mulcahy, who was the Chief of Staff of the Irish Volunteers. And in his statement, which we can see here, he writes, "So neither GHQ nor the government would take responsibility for our actions. He wanted myself, Hogan, Tracy and Robinson to go to America. I was spokesman at that meeting. I told him we would not go to America, that we had done nothing of which we were ashamed. He said that if we carried on as we were, and we were killed in action, we would be classified as murderers. I said I did not care what we were called." So I think the real strength of the collection and why we keep on learning about new aspects of events is that we then can bring in someone like Marion Tobin. Now, she was a woman who took in the IRA unit immediately after the events. She applied for a pension, again is successful, and she received just under 4 years for her service. So when she's applying, she receives a couple of really glowing references from the men who took part in the actual events. The first one is from Dan Breen. "She was our most trustworthy person to Tipperary. Sean Tracy, Sean Hogan and myself went to her home after Solohead Beg, and it was Mrs. Tobin who made contact for us and got houses for us for several days when the area was hot. She was one of our best workers we had from 1917 until 1923. I can safely say that there are few women and not many men who gave more help than Mrs. Tobin."
About 95% of the material in the pensions collection is either typed or handwritten. So therefore, when we do find photographs, it's a rarity, so we sort of tend to celebrate them. And here we have an example from Bernard Marin, who's killed in September 1920 in County Monaghan. Now, the reason that we have so many memoriam cards are that under the Army Pensions Act, people had to prove that the person they were claiming for was actually deceased. So due to difficulties in early 1920s Ireland, very often deaths weren't actually registered. So that's the reason why we actually do have so many memoriam cards in the collection.
A part of the file of Mary Louise O'Brien from Dublin. I really do like that file because it introduces a larger European background to her file, and also it is a bit of a who's who in Irish politics at the time. From the moment the file is created till the end, you can see in the background the administration changing, the political life is changing as well, and she is part of this whole thing. She writes very well, and you can see she's from an educated background, but at the same time, so she does a lot of administrative work, office work, intelligence work. Even during the war, the Civil War, she's back in Dublin, and she does carry dispatches, and she does intelligence work, and she supports like that. In 1923, Mary Louise O'Brien goes to the International Red Cross Convention in Switzerland, in Geneva, to publicise the treatment of the Republican prisoners back home in Ireland. And in the same year, she gets credentials from Dáil Éireann to also go to Italy to do the same, basically. And over there, she gets to meet the Italian Prime Minister, who's at the time Benito Mussolini. And in her statements, She does write that she's meeting him and she to do her work basically, but it seems to us that she was hesitant in actually typing the name in. So she types her whole statement, she leaves the space, she doesn't type the name Mussolini, she just pencil it in. She was hesitant, something was stopping her typing the name, and she does say, had the name Mussolini better be typed in or not? So she doesn't know what to do with this, and that shows how she was thinking about the whole process as well, and how she was expressing that. So that's also a very good insight from behind the scene as well, what people thought while they were applying for pensions. So that's quite interesting as well.